Hi, have you ever considered using Lenormand cards to heal your inner child? Hi, I'm Michelle, and today we're going to go beyond traditional cards readings and explore a completely different way we can work with our cards. We're going to talk about healing your inner child through reflective storytelling. Now, I want to make something very clear before we begin. This is not a traditional Lenormand or Kipper technique. Normally, when I teach these systems, I encourage you to learn the traditional structure first, learn what the cards mean, learn how they interact, learn how to form a story from these cards. But once we understand the traditional system, we can also explore other ways of working with the imagery. And today, we're not asking the cards to predict the future. We're asking, what story inside of me may be ready to be heard? So if you're ready to do some childhood healing, go ahead and grab your Lenormand cards, and I'm going to show you a technique that you can use. And you may also need a journal and also a candle if you want to go along and practice as we go. And as always, I love using a PowerPoint presentation. I know it's a little bit old school, but the reason why I use a PowerPoint presentation is because it enables you to have the notes, and also it gives me the information that I have poured into the PowerPoint so I do not forget to give you all the information. So let's go ahead and get started. And I do hope you like all of my slides. And today I'm going to do it a little bit different because some of the slides have a lot of information. And I want you to be able to see all the information. So let's go ahead and get started to see how you can use Lenormand cards and heal your inner child. Now, what is reflective storytelling? And you know me, I just love storytelling. Reflective storytelling is very different from prediction because Lenormand cards are known as future telling. They can tell a story, they look at your energy of where you are now, and they can predict what can happen if you're still on the same pathway and the choices that you make. But instead of asking the Lenormand cards, what is going to happen, we might ask, what does this image bring for me? What part of the story, my story, does this remind me of? What feelings arise when I look at this card? And what does the younger version of me need in this story? So the cards become a visual prompts for self-reflection or self-healing. So what does this card bring up for me is what you want to ask whenever you're doing this kind of reading. Now, of course, first of all, before you do any type of spreads for the Lenormand, you need to choose your question. You always have to have an intention to do so. So what part of my younger self needs compassion today? What does my inner child want me to understand? Or what childhood story am I ready to see differently? Now, these questions are very, very reflective. We're not asking the cards to prove something about our childhood. We're using them as a doorway into our own thoughts, memories, emotions, and imagination. So what you're going to do, if you have your cards with you can go ahead and do this technique with me. So go ahead and shuffle your cards, and you're going to pull 3 different cards. Don't look at them yet, but go ahead and pull 3 cards just randomly. Now, the 3-card inner child story, the first card that you have pulled is the child. What is the younger version of me experiencing? That is the question that number 1 is going to answer. Number 2 is the need. What might this younger part of me need? And the 3rd card is the gift. And I love that explanation, the gift. What can my adult self offer this younger part of me today? Now, here's where we're going beyond traditional reading. Don't immediately reach for your guidebook because sometimes, there's so many meanings, once again, that you might get a little confused or you get overwhelmed. So really go into what you're feeling. Instead, and of course, here it is. Instead, look at the pictures. What do you notice? What catches your attention? What emotion does the image create? What does the scene remind you of? There are no points for getting the correct answer here. There's no yes or no. This is reflective rather than divination. So here's where you're going to build the story. So once you understand that the first card is the child, the energy of your inner child, imagine that the person represented by the first card is the younger self. And I always imagine myself as being younger whenever I'm doing this. Ask, where is this child? What is happening around them? How do they feel? Okay, this is something that they're looking at this particular card. Okay. Your first card may not be a child. So the second card is the need. Then look at the second card. Ask, what does this child need right now? So when you're looking at it, is it safety? Is it reassurance? Is it permission to play? Is it maybe it's attention? Maybe it's freedom. Maybe it's simply someone saying, I see you. The third card, of course, is the gift. The move to the third card. This represents what your present day self can bring into the story. Ask, what can I give this younger version of myself now than I couldn't give to them back then? You are not changing history whenever you're reflecting. You are changing the way you relate to the younger part of yourself today. So I went ahead and drew 3 cards. And this is actually my reading, my reflection reading. I know. So you get to learn something about me. So what I did is I drew 3 cards, and we're going to go ahead and reflect on that. So the first card I drew was the woman. The second one that I drew was the maze, is what we can call it, and then the broom. And so we're going to look at each of these cards and make a story of it, and while I reflected on it. So again, the first card is the woman. So let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So she could represent, okay, what is my younger self showing me? So sorry. She could represent the person your younger self felt she needed to become, perhaps mature, responsible, capable, composed, or independent. And I was very independent as a child. There could also be interesting contrast here, a child appearing as a grown woman. A reflective possibility might be I learned to be the grown up. That doesn't mean this is card is declaring that this happened. It's an invitation to know whether the idea resonates with your own memories. And many times, yes, I did feel like the grown up, but I didn't feel like the only grown up in the house. And the reason why I want to tell you is why I wanted to do the card reading on myself is I wanted to see if this works. And I went, oh my goodness. So it might surprise you too. The second card that I drew was the labyrinth. And this is the need, the second card. What does this younger part of me need? I cannot pronounce that. A maze suggests searching, confusing, trying different paths, getting turned around, or not knowing how to find the way out. Placed after woman, okay, it's the second card from the woman. Imagine the younger self saying, I was trying to figure everything out, which that is very true. Perhaps she needed guidance, someone to help her navigate rather than expecting her to already know the way. There's also a beautiful distinction between being lost and being guided. Maybe the need isn't for someone where everything for her, it's for someone to say, you don't have to figure this out by yourself. I'll walk with you. So then the third card, the gift, was the broom. And at first I went, oh my goodness, this is I think this is a negative card. And I kept thinking to myself, all this negativity stuff. And then I started reflecting and went, oh, you know what? It can mean something different. Broom is fascinating here because traditionally we might think of sweeping, cleaning, repetition, conflict, or something that needs to be cleared away. But for reflective storytelling, look at what image personally evokes. The broom could become an invitation to clear away something the younger self no longer needs to carry. Maybe old expectations, maybe the belief that she has to know the answer, maybe the need to be the responsible one, maybe an old story about who she has to be. So the adult self enters the labyrinth, finds the younger self, and says, "You don't have to figure everything out anymore. I'm here now. We can clear away what was never yours to carry." And I know you've heard that before. We clear away what was never yours to carry. So, what I want you to do at this time is I want you to go ahead and do your three cards just exactly what I did. Kind of look at them one at a time, answering those questions and filling out also, what each question was and filling out what your reflective feeling and emotions are on it and write in your journal. So you may want to pause this video at this time. So the reflective story from these three cards is I see a young girl who learned very early to become the woman, to be capable, responsible, and figure things out. But inside, she may have felt though she were wandering through a labyrinth without a map. And I will tell you, and my parents did the best possible thing that they could do. They got divorced and they were having difficulties. And of course, they do the best that they can, but it does create different emotions, feelings, and memories for the children. And so because I had to go through all of that, I probably did feel very responsible and very, a leader and very independent. What she needed wasn't necessarily someone to give her all the answers. She needed someone willing to walk beside her. Now, as the adult, I can return to that younger version of myself and help her clear away the belief that she has to navigate everything alone. And many times I just thought I was being very independent, but it's very lonely when you do that. So you may want to pause again if you're not done with writing about your story, about your three cards. So what we're going to do is rewrite the ending. So whenever you write your story or you understand what the cards are telling you about your inner child, rewrite the ending. So the final piece. So ask yourself, if I could give this story a new ending, what would happen next? Maybe someone finally listens to them, which is your inner child. Maybe they discover that they have a voice, and I am still learning to have my own voice. Maybe they realize that they're allowed to be different. Maybe they simply hear, "You don't have to carry this anymore." And this can be done in a meditation or it can be done in a journal if you want to. So write the new ending in your journal. So you may want to pause this video or rewatch it, however you want to do that, so that you can do this. You aren't changing your history. You're not changing. It's a memory and it's happened, so you cannot change it. You're changing the way that you relate to the younger part of yourself today. You're looking at a different perspective. You're forgiving yourself. You're forgiving the people that surrounding you. So it's very therapeutic, and again, it's very reflective. So this is my new ending that that's one reason why I went ahead and made the slides bigger, because it's so much information. It's a huge story. And when you're writing too, I always tell people that I'm working with, always imagine yourself. And just like this picture, I love this because there's the adult version and the child version, and they're very close. You can hold each other's hands when you're doing this. And you can imagine and meditate through it and put in your third eye. But this is my new ending. I see a young girl who believes she needed to grow up quickly. She learned to be capable, responsible, and strong. When she didn't know what to do, she kept searching for the right path, trying to figure everything out for herself. And because I know many times while my parents were getting a divorce, I did not want them to be sad. And so I kind of kept that to myself, and I probably took in a lot of their grief as well. But today, I enter the story as a woman I have become. I walk into the labyrinth and find that younger version of myself. Instead of telling her which direction to go, I sit beside her. I tell her, you don't have to know the way. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to do this alone anymore. I am here with you. Then I take the broom, that gift of a card, and begin clearing the path. Not because there's something wrong with her, but because some of what she has been carrying no longer belongs to her. Then I take the broom and I begin clearing the path, not because there's something wrong with her, but because some of what she has been carrying no longer belongs to her. We sweep away the belief that she always has to be responsible. We sweep away the expectation that she must know what to do. We sweep away the idea that being strong means doing everything by herself. And then I take her hand, and we don't need a map. We simply begin walking through the labyrinth together. This time, she isn't lost. This time, she is accompanied. And I absolutely love that story. And I just hugged the little girl that I was, just knowing, you know what, you were so brave to get through everything that you got through. And so hopefully your new ending will be very therapeutic for you too. And you can even write a letter to your younger self and rewrite the story that way. So the final takeaway, what I want you to remember, is traditional reading and reflective storytelling are two different practices. And we know that. But when we're reading Lenormand traditionally, we respect that system. And we're doing reflective storytelling, just what we talked about today. We intentionally step outside the box, those traditional structures. The cards become prompts. You become the storyteller. And perhaps the most important question is, what are the cards telling me? Because you connect in with those cards energetically whenever you first set the intention and you have that very first question. So maybe today the question is, what is your younger part of me finally ready to tell me? And then we listen. And I want to also say, I see her, I hear her, I honor her, I walk with her. It is my new ending. And so, again, this is just so therapeutic. And again, you can pause the video so that you can do all of this. But I hope that you enjoyed this video about how to do inner child work. I know a lot of people are doing it now. And this is something that you can do to yourself, with yourself, and with Lenormand cards. And if you're very familiar, I mean, symbols are symbols, and you just intuitively look at it and you listen to what that inner child is telling you. And so I send you love, because sometimes it is very emotional, whatever your child is trying to tell you. But you know what? That is the start of finding out who you are. You are not broken. You're just finding out who you truly are. And you're embracing those experiences that you had as a child, because that makes you who you are today. And you know what? There's not a better person than you. All right, everybody. Happy Lenormand card reading, and I will see you next time. Much love.